standing in front of the original trailer where this work started, is that right?
Yes, this was the first streamside rearing facility that was implemented within the Great Lakes Basin by the Little River Band back in, I believe it was 2003 was the first year that we operated this.
Okay. So the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians probably was the initiator of these kinds of activities in the state, you think?
Yes, we were the first ones to initiate the streamside rearing, and the basis of making sure that these fish imprinted and came back to their natal streams. So that was a big part. Also, when we collect fish and for this streamside rearing, we let the fish do all the pairings. We don't do any artificial spawning or propagation of them. We collect them as larval and or as eggs, and we let the fish do their own pairings, and then we bring them into the facility, rear them up until September, first part of September, and then we release them back into the Manistee River.
Explain pairings, because it sounds like there's some dating going on.
Oh yeah, it's kind of when the fish come up to spawn, the females and the males will get together, and we don't interfere with that. We let them choose their mates for spawning, so that we have natural connections there, and we're not artificially influencing what prodigy will then be produced.
Okay. And as a result of that, there's probably natural selection in process, and maybe some of the stronger genes are being passed back and forth?
Yeah, we would hope so, that they'll naturally select the most fit individuals, and some in an artificial spawning situation you have to have so many males per female. There's some ratio, but we don't want to influence that. We want nature to take its course, the fish to select for themselves what prodigy or offspring are going to be produced.
Okay. Which sounds like in the long run it will be to the benefit of the fish, I think, right?
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah. Because sometimes you can artificially select for, if you're taking gametes from fish, from males and females, and you could potentially artificially influence that genetic makeup of that population. We didn't want to have any hand in that. We wanted the fish to do that themselves and just help recover the population from there.
Okay. So this is really a very unique starting point where we're standing here with this trailer and with the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians started. And I know it's spreading throughout the state, and this has been going on for a number of years. When you look back at the starting point and where you are now, what's your feelings about what's going to happen and what's happening?
Oh, I'm very excited that we were the first ones to do this. Wisconsin, the state of Michigan, and now some down in Ohio have kind of taken this model and implemented that throughout the Great Lakes Basin to help restore lake sturgeon, in different areas. So yeah, it was a great starting point, and it's only 20 years in. These are long-lived fish. We're just getting to the point now where we should start seeing returns here in the Manistee River system. So now, we'll continue doing this, but now we're starting to look toward, okay, what is the contribution of the streamside rearing to the overall spawning population in the Manistee River? So that's kind of our next step. We've implemented a pit tag antenna in the Manistee River, and that reads the little tags that every fish that we handle or plant gets the same tags as like dogs or cats at the vet, so you can track that fish individually. Yeah. So we're just starting that, and hopefully we have a long-term goal for this population, and eventually we hope to get there.
Yeah. So you're in a beautiful setting here in the middle of the forest on the bend of the river, and I'm not sure how people feel about your presence here, but you've got to feel as if you're back to nature when you're in a place like this.
Oh yeah, it's a real difficult job working where we do. Yeah, on the river, yeah, in the woods, it's kind of a career dream come true for me.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're doing such a great public service too, because many people probably would never even imagine that these fish could come back, and you're doing it.
Yeah, this last couple of years we've seen a lot more fish at Tippy Dam below there coming up for the spawning run. So we're starting to see those fish. Other people are saying, hey, I saw fish up the river. So it's really great to hear that other people are starting to see them. And one of the bigger aspects here is, this connection for the tribe was almost pretty much lost.
Okay.
They're, because sturgeon are, I believe, what they call the grandfather fish.
Yes.
So there's that connection there. By losing this population, they've lost that connection to that part of their heritage,
Yeah.
to their tradition. By restoring this, we're hoping to reconnect that with the tribal citizens.
Yeah. When we think about the First Nation, when we think about the tribal people, they really understood the ecology better than maybe people who settled here from someplace else. And now that they're taking a role in trying to educate the rest of us, maybe, about how nature works, they must have some satisfaction knowing that their work is going to go out into the future for hundreds of years, probably.
Yeah, very satisfying and very rewarding to have that opportunity to work on this project and help these fish come back.
Yeah, very good. All right, we're here at the Manistee Sturgeon, I guess, nurturing area, right?
Yep.
Where
So we call it a streamside rearing facility.
okay,
We're on the banks of the Manistee River.
okay, and this facility has been here how long?
We've been operating out of this particular building since 2018, and we have our trailer that we started with in 2004 on site as well.
Okay, and now this was one of the first planting sites in the state of Michigan, right?
This was one of the first streamside rearing sites for the state of Michigan, or for the Great Lakes region.
Okay, and now there are multiple sites around the state, I guess.
Correct. There's a few in the UP, one down in Ohio, a couple in Wisconsin as well.
Yeah, I think they just planted some in Frankenmuth.
Yep. So they do a stocking on the Saginaw Bay system, tributaries. I wouldn't call them streamside fish, but they're lake sturgeon stockings.
Okay, so what's the difference between the streamside and the lake fish?
So the difference between streamside and like a traditional stocking is that when we call a streamside fish, they've been raised on the river water that they're going to be stocked into. And so some of the ones most of them going into the Saginaw system haven't been raised in that home water that is the intention of where they're going. Like these fish have never left the Manistee River water from collection till release.
So they're always going to be able to know what the Manistee River is because of that.
Correct.
They're going to have a memory of some sort.
Yep.
That's going to bring them back here, probably.
Yeah, it's believed that they will imprint on that water of where they're raised, so that then when they mature in anywhere from 13 to 17 years, that then they know where to come back to.
Wow. 13 to 17 years.
Yeah, males 13 to 15-ish years roughly or so, and females like 15 to 17 years roughly.
So they're going to go out in the big lake or wherever and...
Yeah, so as we release these guys today, they'll kind of stay in the river till early, late fall. Some of them will stay over the summer or winter, but then they'll progress down to Manistee Lake and then out to Lake Michigan, wherever they can kind of find good food, water temperature that they're looking for.
What kind of food are they looking for?
Right now, they're eating little bugs that are in the river, and as they grow, they'll transition from, they'll still eat on bugs, whatever they can find. They're bottom-oriented fish, so they're just cruising the lakes or river bottoms looking for either fish or bugs to eat on.
Okay. And now I know these fish can get very large, so when they come back in 17 years and they're through their development, how big would they be?
So they can get over 6 feet long and over 100 pounds on average, live over 100 years on the extremes. So I mean, over 100 pounds can be the top size of some of the fish.
Wow.
And if it's a female, when they come back to spawn, if it's a 100-pound female, 20 to 30 pounds of that weight can be in eggs. hundreds of thousands of eggs that they can, are running into the river with to spawn.
Yeah.
But of those eggs, only 0.01% naturally survive to adulthood. So large mortality, that's what our stream side's here to do, is try to reduce our early life stage mortality. Once we get them to the 6 to 8 inch size, they should reduce their mortality. They should be able to avoid some of the predators in the river. They're getting the sharp, pointy scoots on them to help with that avoidance, and they can swim away from some of the other predators as well.
The predators are other fish, probably?
Yeah, other fish. And so right now, until 4 to 5 years old, they've got good modeling coloration on them, so they kind of help blend in with the river bottom as they're swimming and feeding as well.
So that gives them some protection, some camouflage.
Yep.
Now, many of these fish are probably raised here over a period of how long?
So we collect these fish around Memorial Day. So late May to early June is when we've started collecting them. And when we collect them, they've already hatched. And they're about 1 inch long at that point. And so they would have hatched or spawned early May to late April.
Okay, and then once they reach the size that they're at now, they're probably going to have a good chance of surviving?
Yeah, some studies have shown, I believe it to be about 80% survival to kind of adulthood.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, when you put these fish in the water, I assume that there's no way to track them once they leave?
So we don't physically track them and monitor their movement, but they have a pit tag in them similar to what we use in cats and dogs. So if a cat and dog get lost and they get brought back, you can see who the owner was.
Oh, okay.
And so we've got the same technology in every fish we handle and release. And so we need to handle those fish again to see that capture history. And then just this summer, we put a pit tag antenna array on the bottom of the river here at Rainbow Bend as well. And so as those fish make these returning runs into the Manistee River, we'll be able to get that pit tag read without handling those fish. And so we'll start seeing some of our returning fish swim across that antenna array and kind of get some of this information of how many fish from our release have survived to adulthood.
Well, that's high tech. You're keeping track of it. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, one question I have, and maybe you can answer this, is these fish were abundant at one time.
Yep.
Especially here in the Great Lakes, and then they disappeared. How can we understand that? Why did they disappear?
So their disappearance is multiple-fold. Us as humans are the main cause of that through overfishing, commercial overfishing, habitat degradation, the logging that occurred on the riverbanks, and then sending those logs down the river. A lot of that's in the springtime when those fish are trying to spawn. Dams as well, so they can only reach to, like on the Manistee River, they can only get to Tippy Dam, which would have blocked any upstream migration to other habitat as well. So those are kind of the three main factors. Then we have invasive species as well, so it's like sea lamprey being in the lakes have caused detrimental effects as well to lake sturgeon.
Did you see the look on his face?
Looks like it's got a good hold on you.
For sure, it's like they say it's like you ever put a vacuum cleaner to your hand? It's like that, but about 5 times stronger. No, it's just like over there. You can see the teeth marks.
Yeah. Okay, so they had many issues that they had to deal with, and after a while they disappeared.
The numbers decline. So I mean, like I said, you can kind of see their long life cycle of long-lived allowed them to also persist through all of it. Since they didn't have good spawning for multiple years, any other fish would be extinct if they had to endure all these same things for the most part. But because a lake sturgeon can live to 100 years, they've been able to kind of persist at these lower numbers, find good spawning timing now. And so now we're starting to see anecdotally, just visually, a small uptick in some of the sturgeon numbers through the Great Lakes. I'm not saying that it's a big uptick, but we are seeing some some evidence of increased populations.
So these are pretty tough fish if they're surviving.
Yeah. So when they're a bit older, they're fairly tough fish and fairly strong. It's this young age, and when they're young is when they can be very vulnerable.
Now, there isn't any commercial fishing of this. What about sports fishing?
So there's very limited sport fishing. So on the Manistee, there's no targeting of lake sturgeon, and within Michigan, it's limited to a few lake systems and very controlled on that harvest. And I wasn't going to mention which lakes because I don't know all them all off the top of my head, but they are in the Michigan regulations for how and where people can target sturgeon for recreational or harvest.
Okay. And I know there was a big controversy about harvesting the eggs. Some people were doing that for profit. Is that still an issue?
Yes, it is. It's a very large black market for poaching of females for that caviar. And it's hard to know because, like I said, it's kind of done in the dark, and our law enforcement agencies do monitor it, and they're have been successful in kind of curtailing some of that market.
Okay. So you want to show us around a little bit?
Yeah, I can do
show
that.
Show us what we have here?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of buckets here. Is this what people are going to carry the fish out to the stream in?
So these buckets here will be get some of our fish down to the riverbank. We've got, a few buckets, but we've got about 515 fish, and I don't have 515 buckets here. So we'll fill those with water, put a few fish in it, and then after the ceremony, families and kids and adults will come and grab a bucket with fish and then take them down to the riverbank and release them.
Okay. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
For the kids especially. We have a whole bunch of them here, and it looks like they are thriving.
They are. So, like I said, when we were first talking, we get these guys at about an inch, and most of these guys now are over 6 inches long, and some of them are 8 inches or more.
Can I put my hand
Yep.
in there? All right, I just see if I can bring one out here. There we go. There's one. Boy, I'll tell you, they're lively.
Yeah.
They're looking pretty healthy. I'll tell you, that's a healthy fish.
Yep.
I'm gonna put them back in there, or her. Okay. Cute.
So
Yeah,
right,
you must love seeing them grow to this size, and
it's great watching them grow. I get my kids out here as well, and they enjoy watching and helping with the fish. And so right now we've got, I believe it's about 16 or 17 tanks of fish, kind of distributed based on when we caught them and to keep our densities a little lower. And so we kind of move them, progress them in these tanks as they're growing. And if you can see, so like right now, we're feeding them a frozen bloodworm. It's a fly larvae.
look at that.
And so,
So this is a food packet,
yep,
and it breaks up, and over time this is what
that's what they're feeding on here. It is a natural food that they would find out in the river as well, but
Okay.
in the river, it would potentially be alive and swimming. And so, kind of one difference here is that, to get these guys growing, we finish them on the bloodworm, and we start them on a zooplankton, a brine shrimp, that we feed them as well.
They're
And
eating
that's
well. They're eating shrimp, huh?
yeah, not quite the same shrimp you and I would eat, but similar.
So basically, these fish have been reared in, like you said, the water that is from the river.
Yep.
So when they go out there, they're going to be very much at home with that.
Yeah. Like I said, we pull Manistee River water in. It does some mechanical filtering to get some of the sediment out, because fish sitting in a tank aren't necessarily able to avoid heavy sediments that would come in. And so we remove some of the sediments through a few different filters, and then we do a UV filter to kind of kill bacteria or viruses that might be in the water. Otherwise, this is all just Manistee River water pulled from the river and sent back to the river. So like you said, when we put them out in the river today, it'll be the same temperature, the same water that they've been used to all summer long.
Well, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right. Can you find the tag?
So I like trying to rinse them off.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking
I'm gonna try to get this to full. Like, get it to clear up a little bit.
So like we were talking earlier, each fish gets a pit tag in the top side of the fish. So that tag is about the size of a grain of rice.
Wow. Yeah.
And so then, as that tag is in the fish, it'll give us a number, unique identifier, as to what fish is which one, and we can relate it back to when we released it, what year we raised it, or where we saw it initially, and then those recapture histories over years. And so when we handle an adult fish, we'll bring a spit tag reader with us, and we'll scan everywhere on the fish, because it's going to be... So that one's trying to say that we don't have a tag in it. Show some of the difficulty of seeing a fish, but then that fish would have that number on it and associated with its capture histories. And so each of these guys as well have been tagged, and so they have a unique identifier that'll be with them as we catch them additional years.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, we're not gonna dump them. You can pick them up, remember? Very gently.
Get a little closer to the water so you don't drop them on the ground.
Ava,
Gently.
can you get down? Look at them. Can you put your hand in there?
Good job.
So remember, you can go like this.
Oh, they're so cute.
That's what I'm like. Hold your hand flat. Can you hold it flat?
Did you let both of yours go, bud?
Ready? Ready? You gotta put your, you gotta get your hand more down.
I'm so happy.
You put your hand in the water, how about, and I'll do it for you. Ready? Ready? Okay, let her go. Oh, you gotta let her go.
Guys, look at me. Hey,
You can
God
touch
bless
the fish if you want.
Just be gentle. Be gentle.
And then why is the other one called?
When you look at this event and you see what's going on,
Yeah.
what kind of feelings do you have about this which is happening?
Well, I think the first word that comes to mind is pride. I have pride that we've been able to do this is our 20th year. I have a sense of hope and encouragement that we can reclaim what has happened in the past. We have the sturgeon that we're releasing. We were one of the first ones to reintroduce the sturgeon program, and to see and know that we're contributing back into the environment